Hey everyone, it's DrRic. Tonight, before I left the clinic, I thought I'd talk about cholesterol. I finally got my freaking cholesterol to drop. And I'll tell you how in a second, but I have been, just for full disclosure, a pescatarian for about 7 years. When a friend slash patient had a heart attack in November, I decided in 2018 to go into a vegan practice, and I have continued as such. Noticed it was more novelty than anything. It was more to support Bob, but it's like, all right, this is kind of cool, but I wasn't getting anything out of it, and I got some blood tests, and they were totally screwed. I think the variable when I did my blood testing after a couple months of veganism was that I was totally stressed out, almost to the point of possibly losing or moving to a different place because of all the stress that was going on. That occurred December, January, February, March probably. Things have evened up. In fact, what I did in about February of 2019 was, because I wasn't getting anywhere, I thought I'd add in intermittent fasting. And that's so many different spectrums of fasting that, just put it this way, I adopted an 8-hour feeding window. So since about springtime, I only eat from noon till 8 p.m. Now, give or take a couple hours here and there, or a couple weekends where there's a party that happens late, but I maintain that up until now, currently, so I'm still doing that. And I had some mild changes in my markers, not much, which was very discouraging. And those my patients who you kick ass as best as you can, you count carbs, you measure stuff, you weigh stuff, and it's like nothing's happening. No waistline change, no muscle mass growth, and the numbers don't go anywhere. If anything, they go higher. It's like, what the... Anyway, so when a patient of mine, Pat, said that she was going to try the fasting mimicking diet, I thought, you know what, I'm going to try it with you. Because I had the boxes, and see my post down below for what the fasting mimicking diet, FMD, is. I'll show you the book in a second. But I tried it with her, and I want to show you the results. So this is from how I was with my cholesterol. Has a vegan, vegetarian kind of patient with a little bit of intermittent fasting on board. So, I mean, that's all right. They should be better. I shoot for 180 and 80. And yeah, I might be a little strict, but heck, if you're going to wind up with a heart attack or some form of stroke, if you maintain this, or if I told you, these numbers are okay, I wouldn't follow standard. And sometimes my cardiology friends would allow 200 on the total cholesterol and 100 on the LDL. I wouldn't. In fact, I would go for fractionated lipid profile, which unfortunately is technically considered experimental. And then, you know what, screw that word experimental. That's just because the insurance companies don't want to accept the fact that it does help provide an avenue or a way out with patients because it fine-tunes a couple of the possibilities for what type of cholesterol. But so I'd like to get that, but it's expensive, so I'm trying to use these markers to figure out a couple things. So I didn't have any changes, and that was, as I mentioned, in June, after I practiced veganism, intermittent fasting veganism, and exercised. I definitely increased my exercise over the spring, summer, because I have more free time, but that was the only thing, and it was that. So if you ask me, that sucks. I've been better. 2015, I had a cholesterol total of like 167 and an LDL total like 67. That I don't remember what I was doing back. Oh, I know. I just started this job. So I was in Nirvana. I was great. Unfortunately, my dad died the year before. I was on TV, so everything was cool. So maybe happiness does bring it, and it's important. I stress that. Stress will bring out a lousy cholesterol. So if you're going to do a fasting lipid, don't do it on a Monday or Tuesday. Do it on like a Saturday or a Sunday if you can find a lab that does it. So anyway, and learn to stress bust. This is the test. This is the test from the month after. I did one round of fasting mimicking diet, and the frigging thing went higher. It's like, man, this is so frustrating. So, and trust me, I know where my patients come from. So that's that. And then a month later, it's like, what? It went higher. So, I mean, it's not statistically significant. It's not statistically significant to go that high 1 month, but I thought I'd do it before and after. I'm like, screw this. But my muscle responsiveness with the FMD, fasting mimicking diet, is awesome. My waistline's down. I would have expected something of a change, and that sucks. But I'm okay. So, I still like the effects of this thing. And one of my patients today came in and asked me, what would I do, or what do I prefer, and best bang for the buck. I tell you, in trying pescatarianism, I miss the fish and sardines and mackerel. I do miss that because it's a really good protein source, and I can open up a can and eat it, especially after a workout. I miss that a little bit. But I had my first can of sardines the other day. I didn't really taste that great. Then veganism, which is like pure nothing animal product. Although I wear leather shoes, that might be a leather belt, that might be an issue. My seats are made of leather in my car, that might be an issue. But that's the strict vegetarian. And you know what? I don't really care. As long as it's a mostly whole food plant-based diet, I'm cool with it because the studies are important. At least that's what this guy had said. You know, Dean Ornish is the first one to actually come up with some identifiable information, although it's a small case group, identifiable information that there is reversibility in heart disease. Before he came out with his book, every doc thought that once you have a blocked up artery, you're stuck. Once you have your first stent, second stent is coming. He showed it's reversible. So I appreciate his stuff. I don't know if I appreciate the low-fat vegetarianism, but I do like the fact that he adds yoga, calming practice, and a form of exercise. So he said there is a formula of some sort. And that is cool. So I thought that might be a way to go, but obviously if I didn't take care of my stress, then maybe I should have done that first. So it is one of the components, but not the key component. I think nutrition is the most important component. If you have exercise, that does help. I really think resistance exercise and getting the muscle mass, I'm talking about power, I'm not talking about cardio. So when you do cardio, it does help in decreasing overall mortality. But if you want cholesterol and just trying to get isolated markers down, get the resistance exercise in. I know a lot of people don't like that, but do you want to take a fish oil at like 2 capsules twice a day, 3 times a day? It gets to be expensive. If you do that and you don't do the resistance training, you're kind of missing out on the boat. And plus resistance training has so much more. I know I'm biased because I'm a bodybuilder, but yeah, I don't care. I am biased because I've seen a lot of changes. So I've seen some people come in with cardio and they look great. They can certainly run past me, but then they have heart disease. What's his name? Jim Fixx or Alberto Salazar, both world-class athletes, had coronary arteries. So it doesn't really protect you. And I'm not saying resistance training protects you either, but I think there's other benefits to that, including building up testosterone on your own. So, anyway, and listen, these are just markers. And if you take it with a grain of salt, there are some doctors who do not believe and refute cholesterol. And I think it's valid. A lot of the stuff in here is kind of conspiracy theory, but Dr. Sinatra brings up a good argument. And I think that if you use it as a marker and try to get to a destination, if you're a patient or a doctor and a patient, I think it's important because you can easily see those markers occur every couple of months. Waistline, you might not see. Weight on a scale, you might not see. In fact, as you get more muscle mass and your waist shrinks a little bit, you might actually look like you're getting heavier. So I think it's another metric that you should keep in mind. Whether it is totally the only thing I go for saying you're going to have a heart attack, well, no, I think it's a bigger picture. So I do kind of agree with both docs or both authors, but I'm not going to cherry pick this. I would just say other markers are important too, like CRP. My CRP was okay. The C-reactive protein is one marker that does help look for heart disease. As long as the C-reactive protein is low, I should say HSCRP, which they didn't do for some reason. But if the HSCRP is low, that's cool, less than 3. The higher it goes, the more that the calcium or the cholesterol is irritating the coronaries. And if you can afford a calcium heart scan, that would be helpful for adding to the information. Changing around weight is always important. As I mentioned, the metrics of using a cholesterol and maybe a weight and maybe your blood pressure will be important. There's a few other markers like CRP, high sensitivity CRP, which would be helpful, but that cardiac scan is important. If you do have those things and you are chipping away at the lifestyle and it's not seeming to respond, throw out something different. And that's where this is interesting. Not this book. This was a little more basic, but it had nice pictures for food, which is why I liked it. Me like pictures. So it's because the keto followers have some really great data that they follow or subscribe to. And the data, obviously, it comes from labs that are looking into ketosis or nutritional ketosis as a way of life. I would say that some of these authors are biased, but that's okay. As long as it's declared beforehand and it's a good experiment or trial, I think it's worthy of listening to. So I like the results, especially with Verta in Indiana. They've done some good work. Stephen Finney has been out for a long time with athletes, and I like the way he uses ketosis, nutritional ketosis for endurance or elite athletes. That's cool. I'm not an elite athlete though. So if I wanted it to move my waistline or my markers, it would be helpful. The problem I see is that in some patients that go on a full fat diet, I see waistline moving a bit, and energy and brain fog energy restrictions and brain fog is lifted. But I also see a little bit of an elevation in total cholesterol, triglycerides, LDL. And that's where that fractionated lipid profile will be important. That's the NMR, but if it's not covered by insurance, it's a really expensive test. SpectraCell has always been good with doing fractionated lipid profiles, and it gives you not only the total cholesterol, LDL, HDL, and triglycerides, it also breaks down the LDL and HDL into different forms, also looks for ApoE4 or ApoE. So in some cases, I'm sorry, apoprotein. ApoE4 is for Alzheimer's disease. I'm getting my APO screwed up. It's apoliate. So I think that the fractionated is better. The only problem is whether it's paid for. Again, not to say that if you knock your fractionated lipids and or your 4 cholesterols into submission and you get the numbers dialed in, that doesn't decrease. It does decrease your chances, but it doesn't eliminate a heart attack or a stroke. You still have to have a healthy lifestyle. Stress busting, or you can't really turn off the stress response or turn off stress. You can control the stress response your body goes through. You're always going to be surrounded by stress because everybody else is so stressed out. And you're rubbing elbows with everybody else, it's going to rub off. Kind of like sexually transmitted disease. So stress, let's consider stress a sexually transmitted disease, and let's just get a shot of penicillin. So the penicillin is going to be meditation. Meditation, nature therapy, some kind of calming practice on a regular basis to offset the average 2 to 3 episodes of stressors per day would be important. When we were going through the change in this advocate with the computer system and staff and a couple other things, I was like, what the heck? I'm out of here. I was this far away. If it wasn't for the inspiration of my dad to keep me in this position, that actually I think he also got me a position or a appearance on television, national television. If it wasn't for that memory of that and me being here, then I would have exited this place. But luckily, hung in there, and now life is great. So I'm not sure if it's because of the newly found fasting mimicking diet or if it's because everything is just cool, but I like the way it's going. So yeah, I'll end with this. This has really, after pescatarian, after vegetarian, after intermittent fasting vegetarian, after doing all that crap and just throwing this on because my friend Pat was going through it, I have been able to, it finally knocked my numbers down to almost where I was in 2015. So that's my cholesterol now, and that's my LDL. So the other thing I was talking to you about, that's where it was. The other thing I was talking to you about is I'm at the point where 180 and 80, like I mentioned to you before, those numbers are good. These numbers were bad, so we're putting this upside down. So anyway, So the thing I was going to say is if you've made a beeline to attack your cholesterol, you must wait a little bit. That was a precipitous drop in 1 month. I did that in 1 month. If anything, because it's summer, I'm probably drinking more beer, more craft beer than ever. And I'm thinking, oh, it can't be that good. And it is what it is. I changed over from fish oil to flaxseed oil, which is not as good. That's ALA instead of omega-3. I just have a taste for craft beer nowadays. I wasn't drinking for a long time, and I don't know what got me into it, but probably stress. However, even with craft beer, no beer belly, but my numbers are great. So, hey, so those of you who are listening, maybe it's the craft beer that lowered my cholesterol, and I doubt that. So anyway, bottom line is that if you're having an issue with lowering the cholesterol, you should balance out your omega-3. I don't think there's going to be any problems with omega-3. Now, if you're a vegetarian, you might not be able to take it in fish oil, but you can take it made from yeast or ALA from flaxseed. So not as great, but if you increase the dose, you might be able to get by, dial it in. But if you are a vegetarian, depending on how much, or a vegan, depending on how much carbohydrate and what type of carbohydrate you have, you should be able to lower that number. And everybody's a little slow or fast depending on the life balance, exercise, stress reduction, sleep quality, and nutrition, and then work hours per week. So you always have to take that into account. So I would say that the omega-3 is important. Some form of resistance exercise is so important. Please get the muscle going. And I don't mean just cardio. I have no problems with cardio. I usually do cardio when I do my weight training. That's called high intensity interval training, also known as in some circles as CrossFit or giant sets, whatever you want to call it. I picked it up when I was in college. I used to watch the wrestlers wrestle and train. These guys are beasts. I mean, they carry sandbags. They do more than just burpees, but they're all over the mat. They're sweating their asses off. They're doing a lot of lifting. So, and yet, they're not rail skinny like a runner. There's no problems with runners, but I think those guys can really build up muscle fast. Now, if you're in your 40s or 50s, it's going to be hard to turn it on. Sometimes I might suggest that you get testosterone or estrogen if you're a female to turn on your muscle, build it up, and then as you build it up, let go of the hormone, and your muscle will take over after that. But it is important to have muscles so we can chew up LDL. And again, there's other benefits to that: osteoporosis prevention, fall prevention, and just look damn good, baby. So the other thing is to also try to stay away from carbohydrates, the bad ones, like the high glycemic index carbohydrates, definitely the preservatives. Definitely sugars are just unnecessary. Whether it's stevia is probably a little better, but if it's fructose, if it's sugar, it's a creamer, you're not doing yourself a favor. Your taste buds are asking for it. That just goes straight to your liver as fructose. That's not healthy. So try to stay away from sugars, and you will have a withdrawal. But in a way, sometimes the fatty stuff that's unnecessary, like trans fats, things that are saturated fats and unhealthy, I think that even if you follow the keto suggestions that it's normal, I still think it's unwise to carry saturated fats too high for a long amount of time. I just think that's not smart, and it's going to lead to something else down the line. But if you can avoid the fatties, the bad ones, the sugars, the preservatives, try to balance out your diet with good fiber, but maybe not too much of a glycemic load, that will get you to a good level. Now, whether you get to 180 as far as your total cholesterol or 80 as far as your LDL, or also important, the ratio of HDL, which is your good cholesterol, to triglycerides. If the HDL is really tiny, triglycerides are really high, that also is a risk factor. So there comes the muscle building for HDL development and staying away from sweets, alcohols, except craft beers, and preserved foods, bad saturated fats. It's important to stay away from that stuff because it will add to your triglyceride load, and the triglycerides will be converted into, just for the liver to put this damaged stuff away, converted into the fat stores and fat cells and cholesterol. So that's why also it's important to know when you start losing weight quick, like with the fast mimicking diet, I'll lose 10 pounds this week. In the next 5 days, I will lose 10 pounds, just like I did 2 months before. And I gained back 2 to 3, but I lose, so I'm hoping to drop below my norm, which will be 140. If I can hit 140, then I'm knocking this out of the park. The only problem is I've developed muscle mass I haven't touched in about 20, 30 years, so I'm heavier. I think like the thing I said about myself as a Terminator or Wolverine when they sit on a bike, that you just see the bike sink. Well, I'm not that big yet, but I feel heavier, and the problem is when I get bigger up above, likelihood is my waistline is going to shrink from fat, and the scale will be the same, so I can't really go by body mass index or weight, but I'll still go by waist measurement and all my other parameters. So if you happen to be struggling, hang in there, wait to check your cholesterol, keep on doing what you're doing if it seems to be working even a little bit for at least 9 months to 12 months. Take care of stress busting, try to eat a whole food, maybe a plant-based diet, get some resistance training in, and really embrace proper sleep. And hopefully you'll be able to knock your numbers out of the park. If you're able to find your way of getting to a healthy lifestyle, like when you're 20 years old, if you find it, find your way and let me know. Put it down below. I just happen to like this. You don't have to follow this, and you can't do that without having to buy the expensive box, but I would probably say if you can get the whole food approach, that'd be fine. If you don't get a response, wait. Do it the right way and you might get a better response. Or you can portal me or send me a message, I might be able to help. Or ask your doctor. Your doctor should be able to figure that one out. Otherwise, hopefully this gives you a couple of ideas about just being patient with that cholesterol because it's so slow to respond. And as I mentioned, I'm not sure if I finished this, but when you lose weight, cholesterol is stored in fat as a poison. That's the way the liver detoxes. When you lose weight, though, guess what you release? You release a ton of cholesterol. So don't be discouraged. That's why I would say wait maybe until your weight and your loss of fat has stabilized for about 4 months. Again, waiting and delaying might get you better results. Hopefully that does help. Otherwise, I will see you. Again, don't forget to subscribe to me and hit the alert button to find out when I do new videos. I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.